Sefer Yetzira, the second parak, the second Mishnah. First Mishnah. Second parak, the first Mishnah. In the previous chapter, we spoke about the 10 spheres. The 10 spheres are the emanations that animate all of existence. There's a formula in the form of an intelligence that is more alive than anything that will come forth from that intelligence, because everything that comes forth is addressed to the previous realm, and the previous realm is the life force that is animating that layer of existence. And so each layer that we go inward is more alive. Just like we would say that the external organs, the limbs, the hands and the feet, are less alive than the lungs and the kidneys. And the lungs and the kidneys are less alive than the heart and the brain. As we go inward, as we go closer to the observer, to the tools that are at the very edge of the throne, where Creator is going to meet creation, there is more aliveness, until we get to the root of aliveness itself, which is beyond anything that it dresses in. And that's the life force that is most alive, until we call it life itself. Until we say that one who clings to the name of his Lord, to the name of the power that makes him live, is fully alive. He is considered to be alive. One who doesn't cling is not considered to be alive. That clinging means that the intellect has realized the location of the one who is giving it form. That clinging means that the emotions understand their relationship with the one who is expressing himself in them. That clinging means that all particles of matter know the source of their energy, know why they exist and who they're here to serve. All these expressions are the natural expressions of the clinging that happens when anything that's alive on any level realizes the source of that life, realizes who it is serving. And so within that essence, we will find the 10 spheres. We will find the soul of creation is always present in any type of existence that comes forth from the essence. And so these 10 spheres, in order for them to manifest into all forms of clothing under space and time and soul and consciousness, in order for that to take place, it came into 22 vessels. These 22 vessels are going to be the subject of this chapter. These 22 vessels are vessels that we're going to find in space, we're going to find in time, we're going to find in consciousness. The previous vessels, the vessels of the soul, we're going to find as intelligences that animate the human body. We're not going to see them. We're not going to see their manifestation, their dress. They represent the one that's getting dressed. And so we're going to find them in the soul. What animates the soul? Wisdom animates the soul. Understanding animates the soul. Kindness animates the soul. All these are expressions of the soul as it's being animated. We're not going to find something that we will see and we will say kindness, unless we are referring to symbols. Symbols of kindness we will find. For example, we will say that white represents kindness, meaning in this color there is more kindness. There's a revelation of kindness. Versus red represents more restriction. Both of them are being created by all the attributes, by the soul. by all of the soul. The soul is one soul. But here we see one aspect of the soul expressing itself in color, and here we see a different aspect of the soul expressing itself in color. So we're not going to see them, but we're going to see their handiwork. We're going to see how they influence reality. We're going to see the human being and how the parts interact to create the whole, and we're going to see kindness. We're going to see intelligence. These are demonstrations of the attributes. But we can't see intelligence. We can't see kindness. Because we have a soul, we can interpret the dress and discover the essence, but we can never see the essence. The essence is drawing us. How can we possibly perceive what's drawing us? And so the 10 spheres we won't find in creation. They are the creators. They are the name. They are the essence as it becomes animated. And the 22 letters we're going to find in space, in time, and in consciousness, nefesh. How do we find something in consciousness we can point to? We just said that soul cannot be expressed. We can't point to anything in consciousness. Oh, but we can, because consciousness dressed up as a body. And so the human body is consciousness. The human body is the collection of functions that is necessary in order to project consciousness, artificial consciousness, not the original intelligence that created. The original intelligence that created a vessel within which it can dwell. What is this vessel? The human body. The human body is consciousness. And therefore we're going to find these 22 vessels in space, in time, and in consciousness, which is the human body. And so the Mishnah starts, 22 foundation letters, Sholosh Amos, Imus, 3 mothers, Sheva Kfulos, 7 doubles, duplicates, 12 pshutos, 12 simple ones. This is the detail of the letters. 22 is the summary. What is the detail? 3 mothers, 7 doubles, and 12 simple letters. These are the forces. These are the dress. And so in the 3 and the 7, we can already see correlates to the 10. The 10 that came forth, the life force, dressed 3 and 7. 3 as the moichin, as the intelligences, and 7 as the attributes. And since the 7 are the attributes are double. The attributes can go for you and against you. And so the attributes, the 7, they can be for you and against you, therefore they are the 7 duplicates. But the 3 mothers, they're always for you. And that's the intelligence. And so the intelligence is 3, and the duplicates are 7. And from them came forth, from the 6 attributes that manifest in the 7th, came forth the 6 directions of the 3 dimensions, and the 6 directions of the 3 dimensions, which create a cube, have 12 connecting walls, 12 places where the walls within the cube are going to connect. 4 on top, 4 on the bottom, and 4 connecting the top to the bottom. And so this cube of theoretical space, which is the world of thought, which is where the essence is going to be expressed, has 12 borders of their diagonal walls. 12 gvulei ha'alachson, the 12 borders of the diagonal walls, which you will find in each direction. And these 12 are what resulted in the 12 personalities that we know as the 12 mazoles, the 12 astrological signs. And so these astrological signs are personalities. Where do these personalities get born from? From the interaction of the attributes. And so the attributes, in order to create a personality, they connect it to an additional wall. These are the diagonal signs. So we have the 6 directions. And so each direction is teaming up with 4 directions around it in order to create personality. And then together we have 12 personalities. It's one personality, but this one personality has 12 sub-personalities that create him. This is the nature of the human. And so this relates back to the 4 elements, 3 of which are going to be the 3 mothers that we're going to learn about. The 3 mothers are the 3 elements that together create a 4th. Fire, water, and air come into a vessel called earth. And so from these elements comes 3 different variations of each one of the elements, and that's what creates the personalities. And so elements represent personalities. This is why we say one has more water, it's more emotional. One has more air, he's more intellectual. This is because the elements created these forms of expression. This is the dress for that element. This is the dress for that spiritual force. This is where it comes forth in consciousness. This is where it comes forth in body. The heat within the body represents the element of fire. The air within the body represents the element of air. These are expressions of the essence as it's dressing up in these vessels. These vessels we're going to find everywhere. These are the only vessels we're ever going to find. The root, the essence, will never dress up in anything else other than these vessels. There will never be something that is not categorized by these vessels. It cannot exist by definition. And so the human has the fire, the air, and the water, and that dwells within the earth. And this is the nature of existence, and this is the nature of the soul. And so the practical is going to be manifested by the emotional. If we like someone, we will give, and if we don't like him, we will want to take. This is all an expression in the physical of something that is really emotional. This is the underlying principle of all transactions. They're emotional transactions. They're not physical transactions. We're just using the physical to make the emotional transactions. And so the physical is the dress, is the earth, and within it is the emotional, that's the water. And within it is the beliefs and the expressions of the intellect. That's what's dressing behind the emotional. Why are they emotionally inclined this way? This has to do with how they see life and how they understand the interactions that are taking place. This is related to the air element. And the fire, which is the heat, which is the passion, which is the desire and the drive, dwells within all of them. And so they're all representing each other. And within these 12 zodiac signs, we get these different personality traits, and we get these different forms of intelligence that become the dress of the essence. And so the first one, which is the 3 mothers, we're going to learn about their inner meaning, the soul of these mothers. The mothers, we said, Sholosh Amos, Emesh, it's called Aleph Mem Shin. Aleph stands for air, Avir, Mem is Mayim, and Shin is Esh. And so these 3 elements are represented in the 3 mothers. But what are they in spirit? What is the spirit of these 3 elements? So it says, to know the spirit, to know where you can find them in consciousness, Yesoidan, their foundation in reality is kav zchus v'kav choiva. Lashon chok machriya b'intayim. One of the attributes of the Creator is justice. Justice can only happen through judgment. And judgment is a form of expression of the soul where the soul decides life or death. And these are the two elements on the right and on the left of creation. Water representing life, fire representing death. Water is what gives form, the tree will grow, the fruits will appear, life will flourish. Fire, the tree will disintegrate, the fruits will no longer come. Death is going to result. Death simply means a return to source. Erasing a dress. The essence can never die. The dress can change. When the dress changes, we call that death. And so that means that the fire came and removed the form from within the dress, and the essence returned to itself. When we have a thought, the essence is dressed in that thought. If we no longer think that, the essence has returned to its throne and it withdrew from that clothing. And so kav zchus, the side of merit, means something deserves life. Kav choiva, the side of guilt, means something doesn't deserve life. And this is at the essence of language, and this is at the essence of all religion. Is when are you going to have permission to see yourself in the side of merit, and when are you going to violate a principle that's going to push you over to the side of guilt? This is the most essential form of control that the heart has over the life force, is at this crossing. And who's going to decide? Who's going to push the spirit in either direction? Who are going to be the angels that are going to be on the sides of the scales and deciding which way it should go? These are going to be the angels of air, called speech. The angels of air, called speech, are standing in between the fire, which is the death, and the water, which is the life, and they are deciding in which direction the scale is going to tilt. If the scale tilts towards the fire, there's disintegration. If the scale tilts towards the water, there's life, there's refreshment and renewal. There are fruits that are sweet to the taste. Ka'etz shatul al palgei mayim, like a tree that is planted on waterfalls, asher piryo yitem bi'itoy, where he gives his fruits in its time. V'olei lo yibal, his leaves are always moist. This represents the human body. The human body gives fruit. The leaves of the human body, the shadow, are created by the speech. Some are thorny. Some give shade. Some protect us from the fire, from the heat that we are not ready to experience, to absorb. And so the human body depends on speech because the soul is constantly being tilted between the scales. And every word is adding weight to either side of the scale. This scale is part of justice. Those who deny the justice of creation, they cannot participate in the revelation of the soul. Those who deny the soul will certainly not reveal the soul. But the attribute of justice, which is the nature of the soul, this is the malchus, this is the kingdom of heaven, the justice within the soul, the way that the soul decides if you are worthy of more revelation, that justice is in the arms of this scale. And the scale is at the very root of the soul. And the angels tilting the scale are created by speech. And so we have water to the right, fire to the left, and air, which is speech, in the middle. And that's the machriya, that's the one who decides which way things are going to go. We're going to look into the Ravid. 22 foundation letters. Perish Achar Shabir Beperek Aleph Mus Hanesivas V'Chakikoson. After he explained in the first chapter that there are 32 lanes that were engraved within the world of concept and then came forth into the lower worlds. In Mus HaSfiras V'Digmos B'Olam Shana V'Nefesh, she explained how the spheres, the countings, resulted in a depth of past and future, and the depth of good and evil, and the depth of the 6 directions. Together we have 10 forms of depth that represent the dimensions of the Atzilus, the dimensions of the essence, the way that it is going to be revealed, that then became time, space, and consciousness. And so after we have revealed how they came forth, the yichudan, the way that they are really united and they really one, ve'lemosan, and the way that they are hidden from our ability to perceive or our ability to describe, va'atzmusan, and their essence. So then he is explaining how came forth the 3 out of the 10, so that we can understand how the original 3, which is the 3 lines, the left, the right, and the center, are coming forth in order to dress up into the lower worlds. And so at the essence we have Keser Chachma Bina, or Chachma Bina Das, which is the Moichin, which is the intelligences that are beyond the attributes, that are running the attributes, that are revealing themselves through the attributes. And they are divided into left, right, and center. The Bina is to the left, the Chachma is to the right. And the Keser, or the Das, is in the center. So the same thing, we would say the Chachma is what's going to result in the force that later is going to be water. And so water is going to resemble wisdom. And the fire is going to relate to the Bina, to the left side, to what we call understanding. This is where things become more personal. The wisdom is just information. Understanding is, what does it mean in this situation? What does it mean to me? How does the heart accept these pieces of information? And so that's related to the Bina. And then there's the Das, the spirit that gets formed by it. The spirit that is going to animate now the attributes in its 6 directions. And so this root of the 3 is what's coming forth in the world of dress. And so now he's going to teach us how they came forth. This is why he calls them foundations. These are the foundations of all that are found. So when we are used to using the word foundation, we are used to using it as something that is below something and keeping it up, like the foundation of a home. You have a earth that has gravity, and it's a big ball that is very stable relative to all the things that are on it. and therefore you create a foundation beneath the home to connect it to something that is below it. And this is the nature of the world of matter, the lowest world. But if we're going to go to a higher world, we're going to look at the world of the Galgalim. The Galgalim are the cycles of the stars. If we're going to look at the cycles of the stars, we're going to find that every Galgal, every cycle, has its foundation in the middle of it. And so when something rotates, it rotates around the midpoint. That midpoint is the foundation of the rotation. And so, for example, the moon, where is its foundation? On Earth. Where is the Earth relative to the moon? In the middle of its cycle, in the middle of its Galgal. And so because that's the middle world, it's a world that's in between the world of matter and the world of intelligence. And so the foundation is in the middle, to say this is a middle world. In the lower world, in the world of matter, the foundation is below, saying this is the lowest world. In the world of the cycles of the stars, in the world that is the bridge between the world of concept and the world of matter, the foundation is in the middle. And in the world of concept, in the world of sichlium, of intelligences, where is their foundation? Their foundation is above them. Above the intelligence is one who is revealing the intelligence. And so, where's the foundation for the intelligences of all the stars? Each star is vibrating its own message, its own frequency. Where's the intelligence that's giving him life? It's above it. Where's the intelligence that's animating the human body? The soul. It's above it. Because the animation is from the world of concept. It's from the spiritual side. Where's the foundation of the functions of the body, the physical functions of the body? In the middle, in the heart. Where's the foundation of the body itself? What is the body standing on? Something below it. Where's the foundation that gives it continuance over generations? Below the body. Where's the foundation that gives it access to the worlds of intelligence? Above the body. Where's the foundation of what gives it access to all the cycles of the stars so they can be alive within that body? In the middle of the body. And these correlate to the elements. Where's fire? Above. Where's water? Below. Where's air? In the middle. And this is represented in the vowels, the nekudas. The cholim represents the tiferes, represents the air as it's receiving from above, from the beyond. The chirik is below the letter. The melupim is in the middle of the letter. And so the vowels represent the different worlds as they animate the body, just like the vowels animate the letters. And so he says, this is why they are called Yesod. This is why the mothers, the fire, the air, and the water are called Yesod. Yesod can also mean element, but it also means foundation. This is why Lashon HaKodesh is a holy language, because the meaning of the words is based on the original understanding of how reality actually manifests. It's based on these 22 elements that they knew and understood. And they knew where to find these elements within nature, within creation. And so they called the names according to how the Creator is dressing, according to the original intention of those names. And so therefore, the elements are also the foundations, because the elements are concepts. The matter itself is leaning on what's below it. But the concepts that are animating matter are leaning on what's above it. And so the root of the elements of the fire, the water, and the air is above the fire, the water, and the air, and giving it form. Just like the soul is giving form to the body, is giving movement, is giving life to the body. Like we say that understanding, the bina, is the mother of the attributes. When one doesn't understand, he won't react. His understanding is what's going to result in a reaction. Therefore, the understanding is the mother of the reaction, just like the heart is the mother of all the movement of the organs. So there's the mothers, and so what gets created for them is called the foundations. Also, the duplicate letters, which is 7. How did we get 7? 3 became 3, became 3. So we have from 3, 6. And the 6th is giving over to the 7th. The 7th is simply the result of the 6. And so the 3, which were left, right, and center, are going to result in 6, which is Chesed, Gvur, Teferes, right, left, and center. Netzach, Hod, Yesod, right, left, and center. And so Chesed, Gvur, Teferes is the expression of the first 3. And Netzach, Hod, Yesod is the interaction of these 3 with the Malchus, which is the result. And so there's 3 that are going to represent the intelligence, 3 that are going to represent the Malchus. The Malchus is the thing itself, manifestation, whatever comes forth. So for example, in my intelligence, as I'm trying to express these words, there's the intelligence, the first 3, left, right, and center. What am I trying to accomplish with this transaction? What is the intelligence that's driving it? Then there is left, right, and center. How am I going to give that over to the recipient? What do I want to give over as a result of this intelligence? And then there is Netzach, Hod, Yesod, right, left, and center. What am I going to alter within this message? Or how am I going to make this message the most effective as it relates to the recipient? It's no longer about my intelligence, it's related to the recipient. How do I adjust? Or how do I customize this desire, this expression, so that it's suitable and can be received by the recipient? And so in the body, for example, this will result in, as we are reproducing, as we are creating children, in the brain is going to be the intelligence of what soul is being prepared. In the heart is going to be the result of that thought. What emotion is going to invite that type of a soul? And then there's going to be the process of the kidneys and the testicles and the reproductive organ in order to prepare that so that the woman can actually receive this. And so the intentions have been created, the emotion is already present, but now we still need a process that's going to prepare this seed that is going to come forth, this potential that is expressing itself. We need a process that's going to prepare that so that it's suitable to the transmission to the female. And so that relates to the Netzach, Hod, Yesod. These are the tools that are going to prepare this process and make sure that it's given over according to the tools of the recipient, according to the capacity the recipient has to receive. And so the words that I would like to say, because of the intelligence that wants to be expressed, are now being directed to the recipient and prepared in a way that I feel is most likely that the recipient will be able to receive and understand what is being given over. And so therefore, everything is coming forth from the three. The six is an expression of the three. Three that make what was in the mind, the intelligence, emotional, and three that convert it into the practical matter that's going to be the vessel of delivery. And then the recipient of the entire process, which is the Malchus. And then also the 12 singles are also an expression of the three. The 12 singles represent 4 times 3. First the 7 were 2 times 3, and 1 that includes them. Then there is 12 singles, 12 personalities that represent the 3, and the one that includes them all is the 13th. That's the Echad, that's the unity that we are trying to bring to this world. Is the 13th, which is the first, which is the personality that includes all 12 personalities. It's the one that's not in conflict with any part of himself. And so that's again coming from the 3. And so everything here is a function of 1 that became 3, that became 7, and became 12. The metaphor for this, the doctors have realized that the organs have different properties that are related to the elements. Some of them called the brain the white moisture, the white substance that somehow represents water. And in the sense of the process that creates life, this would mean that the brain, the water element, is the one that's supposed to cool down the system, is supposed to allow for the heart to find relief, versus the lower parts of the creation, the liver and the kidneys, which are creating fire. And so the brain, which is the water, cools down the heat of the fire. And in order to assist him, in order to do it on a practical level, the thoughts of the brain, which create kindness, will deepen the breath which comes into the lungs, and the breath of the lungs will reduce the heat within the heart. And therefore the heart will lean more towards the brain and less towards the liver. And so the doctors called the brain the white moisture, and they said that from the spleen comes a black discharge, and the liver is related to the processing of the blood, and the bile, the gallbladder, is the green discharge, and this is keneged esh ofer ruach mayim. And so this balance represents the balance of the fire, the air, the water, and the earth. And this is a famous system that was very popular in the time of the Rishonim, and it's based on the ancient wisdom that was secret. And it was also revealed by other nations, this relationship between the elements and the health of the being, and the nature of the attributes, and which type of discharges they create within the body. And so they would use this on a practical level. The doctors would analyze the body based on the substances of the elements and understanding where the body is out of balance. The Ramban was a very famous doctor, and he was familiar with this knowledge. So were many others. Also philosophers understood many things from this context. It wasn't restricted then only to Kabbalists. But the real essence of what's being said and how it really works relates to the Kabbalists, because there it goes up to a much higher degree. It goes all the way to the throne of glory. It goes all the way into the collective. To the philosophers, it was more about the individual body. This is how it happened to be. This is how nature dressed things up. But to the Kabbalists, this is not how nature did anything. Nature is nobody. Nature is just a see-through prism of the intelligence that designed life. And the intelligence that designed life is revealing its own colors through these representations within the physical matter that are expressed by the elements. And so here, he's saying that there are these four elements. So now, if we want to compare them one to one, we would say that the spleen, which he called the mara shchoira, this is when someone has excessive sadness or depression. This relates to mara shchoira. Mara shchoira is the black. This is related to the element of earth. Too earthy. Why does someone become too earthy? Because the higher dimensions have lost their importance. The higher dimensions are no longer visible, no longer being experienced. The emotions, the intellect, and the one dressing within all of them has lost his importance. And therefore, the element of earth overpowered the soul. The vessel has overpowered the soul. And there's not enough drive within the soul to animate the vessel. And so that's from the spleen, that's mara shchoira. Therefore, from the spleen comes letzones. Letzones means laughter. It means to disrespect the dignity of what is taking place. This is where we'll find the sad comedians, spleen people. They're constantly making jokes, but they're not making happy. They're making jokes, they're belittling reality. And then they are sad people, because to them reality is not serious, it's not important. It doesn't have its integrity and its dignity. And so a joke that violates the dignity of reality is not funny. A joke that exposes the foolishness of man and doesn't realize the magnitude of the impact that the foolishness of man has, doesn't realize the importance of human intelligence, is offending reality itself. And so then there is mara shchoira, then there is a heaviness that the soul can no longer carry the body. The soul is not animated enough to fill all the organs with life. And so that's the lowest one. Then there is the white, the moach, the white discharge. The white discharge represents desire. When the white discharge is out of touch, it means we can move into fantasy. We can move into worlds that don't really exist. And then it seems like we're being kind to ourselves, but we're moving further and further away from reality, which is very unkind to ourselves. And that represents the water. That's when we think we are getting life, but really we are moving away from life. Life is grounded in reality. Life can never leave reality. At some point, life is going to wake up to reality. And so that's the white one. The green one comes from the gallbladder. This has to do with the element of air. And this has to do with when we get into conflict with reality. When we don't like what reality is offering, we want to go to war with reality. And so this Mari Yeruka, when this is out of balance, then there's too much acid in the body, because the body is at war with something that will never move. And so this is a form of suffering. All these are dimensions of hell, and they are called in the Torah, in the language of Moshe Rabbeinu, how he gave us the Torah, in the language of Chazal, they're called Arba Mises Bezdin. The four different deaths that the house of judgment can release. And the house of judgment is within our organism. And so the intelligence that decides if we are on the side of merit or on the side of guilt, that intelligence also decides what is going to happen as a result of our guilt. Which of these elements are going to go out of balance because we have somehow violated that principle, We violated that foundation upon which we ride, upon which there is a throne of glory for the intelligence that dwells within all. And so these are the three, and the fiery one is the blood itself. The fiery one represents anger, and this is represented by the liver. And so when we are angry, when we're going against what already is, in the way that we want to fight, that we want to go to war, then there's an imbalance in the blood. The blood cannot think straight. We lose access to the intelligence. And then when we don't have access to the intelligence, all kinds of things can go wrong. We don't have our protectors. The angels that are supposed to protect us and tell us right from wrong have been incapacitated by the fire. They've been burned by the fire of anger. Therefore, when that will happen, when anger will happen, all three other moras, all three other secretions are going to go out of balance as a result. Because of the anger, also the element of earth, the spleen, is going to misbehave. Also, the gallbladder is going to misbehave. And also, the brain, the imagination, the desire for life is going to misbehave. Therefore it says, Kol hakoyes, one who is angry, Kol minei gehenim sholtim boy. Not only the red one. Anger is the red one. But when the red one is activated, all the others are being activated. Because it means that the body, all the parts of the body, are rebelling against their host, just like the soul is rebelling against his host. So all the organs are rebelling against their host. As the Kol hakoyes, Kol minei gehenim sholtim boy. And this is why the Arizal says that through anger we lose access to our soul. This is why we have all the prayers to try to appease the anger. This is why Moshe Rabbeinu, he says, even though I've reached this level where I've conquered all the angels, I've gone up in heaven, I've faced everyone, even the angel of death. But he says, Ki agoyti me'af v'achema, I'm still afraid of anger and rage. That's something that still scares me, even after I've conquered everyone. Because anger and rage will mean that I will instruct the angels to do wrong. And this is how he eventually lost his access to Israel. Is that he got angry, he said, Shimonu Amorim. He got upset, and then he lost his balance for a moment. He lost access to the intelligence. And so all four, which are all four Mrs. Besdin, all four ways that the higher court impresses its will on the world of matter, all of these are coming when there's an imbalance within the soul. The soul is not interacting with the attributes and with the intelligence in an authentic way. And so, ואין יסובר שיחשב שם עוד ממי שחנן השם, יתברך שכל מי שיחשב שהמוח ילך לבדו, אמור מן הירוק לבדו, הכובד מן אדם לבד, התחום משחול לבד. So it says anyone that has intelligence will realize that the brain is not water alone, of course. The brain is a combination of all the elements. In the brain we will find all the 10 animating factors of the soul, and we'll find all the 22 receiving factors of the body. Everything we will find just in the brain. We will find fire, we will find air, we will find earth and water. But when we say that something is related to something else, we are saying that this is the dominant force. This is the one that's in charge of the other forces. Everything is created from everything. But what is dominating that force? What is in charge of what? This is the permutation of the letters. This is the different forms of expression, different dresses that are created by the different parts. And in each one, it's revealed in a different combination, and this is how we can get to know them. And so even the water has in it other elements. The fire has in it other elements. But this is a revelation that when fire is in charge, it looks like fire. When water is in charge, it looks like water. The same thing with the person. Every person has all the elements, but who is in charge? What's the permutation of the letters? What comes before what? Is the real more important than the unreal? Is the imagination in check? This order is what's going to decide what takes place. Every single one is a combination of all. The same goes for all the organs of a human being. And so when we say that from the three sides, left, right, and center, came out the six attributes, each attribute has a left, right, and center. No one is specifically one thing. It's just a matter of balance, a matter of who goes before who. What is the order of priority? This is what's going to result in its location, whether we call it right or left or center. And so why do we call them singles? If you say that everything is created from a range of left, right, and center, then why are the singles different than the doubles? Why are the 12 different than the 7? It's because by the 7 there are opposites to them, as we will learn when we will learn the 7. But by the 12 there are no opposites. There's just more and less. And so therefore it's not called doubles, it's called singles. It's a single range versus opposites, which are also from one range, and yet they contradict each other. There's different ways of calling them simple. He removes his clothing. When he gets undressed, it's called poshat. So it's because they keep on changing. The personalities of the zodiac keep on changing with each other. So that's one way of calling pshutas. It's like they're constantly getting undressed and dressing a new one. And so this is why these 12 personalities are elevating the consciousness of creation until creation will be united with its source. Each personality that from the 12 that comes into creation, that dresses the essence, it's only because through that dress the essence is going to reveal itself more. And so with every dress it's revealing itself more until it's going to reveal itself as the unity that it is through the process of these personalities constantly changing places with each other. Yes, other explanations there for the word pshutas. But we're going to skip forward. So it says, sometimes the 10 spheres will come out in circles, like we will see them in the stars and the galaxies. We will see them in the zodiac. We will see all these circles that are representing the essence, like we see in the solar system. And sometimes we'll see it as a tree coming out with branches, like we see it in the human body, or we see it in the animals. So then these same 10 intelligences, instead of being circles, they are a tree and branches. It says, so the example of the circles is the cycles of the stars. Like a tree where there are branches that come out from the essence. He has branches and branches to the branches, and even those branches give out more branches. Then he has leaves and he has flowers, and he has fruits. So it says these are all metaphors. What are they metaphors for? Chaim, Chaim. The same thing goes for the tree of life. Hanikra Adonai Havaya Eya. The most revealed portion of him, the Malchus, the desire for it to be so, we call that Adonai, we call that my masters, meaning his will is representing what I'm interacting with, and therefore it's my master. This is before I've realized my own essence, before I know who I am. Everything that's interacting with me is my master, is part of my master. But then within that is Havaya, is existence itself, is the essence that I can perceive. And within that is hiding Eya, is hiding a force that cannot be perceived. But he says, I'm going to become, and then I'm going to perceive myself. And so this represents the three levels of the name, which is called the tree. The first, the Eya, I will be, relates to the Moichin, relates to the Kesef Chochmah Bina. He is not yet, because he doesn't yet have a vessel to say, I am. He is an emanation of the higher intelligence that now desires a specific form. But then when there's Chesed Gvur Tiferes, once there is attributes, now there is already an I that's being formed. That's called existence. It doesn't yet know it's an I, but it already exists. It already has a relationship. And then there is Adonai, the manifestation, the form that it takes on. This is how it goes through the tree of life and it becomes reality. This is how everything that exists receives existence. And so this tree of life, yesh le'shorish, it has a root, shemimenu noveh makor, from there comes forth a source. Lohoitzi kol hanimtzo mimenu, all that exists come forth from there. Bli safek shehamekor haneveh mimenu l'elyon mi'etzem hamekor. And there's no question that the source that flows to it from above is from the essence of the source. Now there's different passageways, different lanes through which this life force is going to dress up. The intelligence is going to dress up. Some of him is going to dress up the higher realms, the realms of concept and intelligence, and some are going to dress up the lower realms, the realms of matter and emotion. And so all this is coming forth from the same root. Every type of creature, everything that exists has its own lane of how the essence dresses up as that. Some of these lanes, if we follow them, we will find ourselves on the sides of merit. Sometimes it can be the opposite. So there are lanes that their purpose is to bring him back to reality, which is the Bina, to bring back the Midas, to bring back the attributes to their source. And this is through the side of merit. When the soul feels that it has merit, it returns to its essence. And so then it receives life. There are also lanes that are coming to it from the side of restriction and guilt, to throw him into the pit. Over there are snakes and scorpions and all types of obliteration, of things that reduce existence. And so when the soul gets judged to the side of merit, it goes back to its essence and it remembers its source. But when the soul is judged to the side of guilt, it gets thrown into a pit and the snakes and the scorpions come and bite. These snakes and scorpions are spiritual snakes and scorpions. They are the ones who reduce the capacity of the organs to contain life, to contain joy, to contain connection, to cling to the source. The root of existence and obliteration that's constantly interacting with all that exists. All that is coming forth from the root and flowing to them to each type, from the tzad of merit that he found in the eyes of the world of concept. When the world of concept sees merit in a creature, that creature receives life from that world. And that's called Chasdei Hashem. It's coming from the kindness of the source. And then there's the other side that's reducing life, and that's coming from the side of guilt, that says that this creature no longer deserves life. And this is all related to the impact it has on the human soul. All creatures are judged relative to how they impact the human soul. According to the merit and the guilt, he will become and he will lose becoming, he will return to essence, and then he'll come forth again in all types of creatures, in all types of situations that are going on in the world of matter. All of this is going to happen according to this judgment that happens between guilt and merit. So through that, the source, the essence, is constantly dressing form and removing form, dressing form and removing form. Even within our very own minds, as we see the essence dressing form and removing form, who is at the essence of this dressing? It starts with the scales of guilt and merit. That's the first place where the life force is going to see what lanes is it going to use in order to interpret what is taking place. And then, as it dressed up in that dimension, based on the scale, the intellect is going to be activated. The emotions are going to be activated. And the world of matter is going to receive. Because the name, the source, acts according to these palms, according to these sides of the scale, called kapayim. So again, kapayim here means a hand, a palm of a hand, and it also means a bowl of a scale that's receiving the weight. So these kapayim, which represent the left and the right, they do all the handiwork of the Creator. With these hands, He is constantly meddling within creation. Some are feeling guilty, and some are feeling innocent. And based on that, the movement of the source, the movement of the essence, gets dressed up into intellect, emotion, and matter. So therefore, the pasuk says, "Ne'emar nisan levaveni al kapayim." We will raise our hearts to the sides of the scale, to the palms of the Creator. So we will pay attention to the palms of the Creator so that we can relate to how He is interacting with the world. El to the force of kindness, Bashamayim, that lives in the heavens. What are the heavens? Eshmayim, forces of fire and forces of water. Forces that say live and forces that say die. Forces that say to give continuance and forces that say not to give continuance. Every person that leaves the world, every soul that leaves the body, there is one organ that said, now fire instead of water. Until now water, now fire. And then when that organ said that, the scales of the existence of that individual dress, of that individual form of the divine, have been tilted to the side of judgment, and then the body can no longer contain the soul. And so this happens within the angels. We can hear the angels as they proclaim their testimony. And we know, we might not be conscious of it, but we know what our judgment is. At least from the perspective of the Bez Neshomata, from the perspective of the force of Gvura that's within the Malchus, that's within manifestation. The higher intelligence, most of us don't know how to listen to. We don't have the Holy Spirit, we don't have prophecy. But the Bezdin Shel Mato, the part of the Creator that judges from within us, we have access to, and we know the judgment. Just like there's two palms of the hand, there's also palms of the feet. Kav Zchus means that the side of merit is like HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe, I will protect you with my palm until I pass. Meaning, I'm going to show you such a level of reality that no human being can be righteous enough to live in that reality. No human being can be accurate enough according to that intelligence. But I'm going to reveal to you that intelligence because you wanted to get to know me more. And so I'm going to reveal to you something that your body wouldn't be able to handle. How am I going to do it? I'm going to give you the side of merit, so that even though you see that you are wrong, even though you see that you have violated the nature of reality, you're not going to go against yourself. You're not going to fall into the side of guilt, because you're going to have the divine protection that keeps you in the side of merit. You're going to understand that you were designed and created in order to not be perfect, but to bridge the gap between the place where you pick up life and getting a little bit closer to perfection. And so perfection is not expected of you. You're coming into the very imperfect. So even though I'm going to show you a perfection where every human being is going to see how much they violated, even Moshe Rabbeinu, even the prophet, the teacher of all the prophets, he violated the nature of reality when he sees it from that intelligence, when he sees it from that level of truth. And yet the Creator is going to reveal to him the side of merit, so that while he's seeing that reality, he doesn't get burned by it. It doesn't cost him that he should fall into the side of guilt. And so this is the secret of being firmly adjusted in the side of merit. Every living being is engraved in one of these sides of the scale. Right now, each one of us is somewhere in this scale. This scale is alive. This scale is resulting in things all the time. We're getting things from those places all the time. We might not have the language to interpret what is taking place, and yet we are getting thought, speech, and action directly from that court that knows very well in which side the scales are tipping. And that's why the pasuk says, the Lord says to humanity, I have engraved you on my palms. In the hand of each man, it gets signed to know the actions of each human being, which means the human being himself, with his thought, with his understanding, and his own interpretation of what he's doing, he gives soul, he gives meaning, he gives guilt or merit to the action or the speech. His own intention is going to decide which side of the scale this is going to take him to. Because when we say that upon the throne there's the form of man, we mean a man like the man that we know. And that man, even though he's not aware of the throne and he doesn't understand the consequence of how he is directing spirit, yet whatever happens, the results are directly coming from how man interpreted reality and how he believed and how he directed his emotions and his actions. So through the ones who have understanding, and they know how to be kind with their source, they know how to be kind with the one that they are directing, to direct them in a way that is pleasing to the essence. Shenemar b'ma kadem Hashem, how will I come before the Lord? Ikaf lelehei morem, I will create merit, I will wake up the palm of the divine judge that's above. And so how can I convince the attribute of judgment that's within creation to take me towards the side of merit, to remove me from the side of guilt? It says, within his hands are the soul of all those alive. What does it mean within his hands? His left hand and his right hand. All the souls are dependent on his left hand and on his right hand. And the righteous would trust these hands so much, they would rely on these hands to such a deep extent that they wouldn't be looking at what's taking place in their lives. They wouldn't be looking at the consequences of what's happening to them. They would only be concerned with these hands, with these scales. They would only be concerned that they should be on the right side of the scale. And then they would trust everything that would come on them, that it's only coming in their favor, it's only coming to help them. As long as they knew that they are in the side of merit, in the higher court, they wouldn't be concerned with the events and the circumstances of their life. And this is why they lived lives that are very difficult for us to relate to. It's like they were here, but they were not here. They were here physically in the same dimensions as us, but spiritually they were not in the same dimensions as us. Spiritually they were living in an understanding that allowed complete faith, complete trust, because they knew how to interact with the Absolute. They knew how to make sure that they don't get into conflict with the essence. And all this, the souls and the spirits are in his hand, in the secret of, in your hands I deposit my spirit. I trust my spirit in your hands. Your hands, meaning the left and the right, they're going to draw my spirit. Just like we have the Torah, and the Torah gives us the 613 commandments which connect us to the source. This is the will of the intelligence. This is somehow reflecting the will of the essence as it's being revealed. The same way, each one of the 10 spheres has to worship the source with these 613 commandments, which means that every one of the spheres is B'Tselem Elohim. He has his own form. He has his own 248 parts. He has his own 365 connectors that give existence from one part to the other until the whole can be a one. And so the spheres have the mitzvahs just like we have the spheres. This is the secret of why we say in the bracha, He made us holy with His commandments. And so he's saying it's not our commandments. We're not the ones that have the Tzelem Elohim first. He has the Tzelem Elohim first. And then He gave us His commandments by creating us in His form. Because the commandments are given from one world to the other world, meaning from the world of the source, the worlds of concept, where we are beyond time and beyond space, into the world of space and time. The commandments are the intelligence that's revealing itself. And that's why we say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who is the Midas HaTiferes, who is a Sphira, he also has a tefillin that he wears. Tefillin means he also has a sign that connects him to what's above him, so that he represents the divine will and nothing else. And what is the divine will? What is the tefillin that he wears? He is connected to the end of the thought. What does the end of the thought want to create? Yisrael, before there was going to be a world, there was a thought of a Yisrael. There was a thought of a type of human that's going to become after this world is created. So that thought is the will that is driving the Midas HaTiferes that is driving HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And so that's his tefillin. That's how he is attached to the Infinite One. By remembering the cause, remembering the result of what his kingdom is going to bring. By us, the tefillin attaches us to the Infinite One by remembering Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. To remember that at the essence there's HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that is the one, that is the king, and this is why everything is the way that it is. But in the king, what is the will that connects him to the infinite? It's the one that's going to exist in the many. It's the human that's going to exist in all these parts. This is his will, this is his intention, this is what connects him to the ultimate will. It says, how do we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu prays? I'll make them happy in the house of my prayer. What do you mean? How is it his prayer? It's because wherever we express prayer, wherever we express desire, this becomes the will of the king to manifest our will. This is the cycle of creation. This is like the male and the female, that their will become one as they unite as one. And so what was before the will of the female is becoming the will of the male. And what is before the will of the male becomes the will of the female. This is the cycle of creation. And so HaKadosh Baruch Hu, by wanting us to have what we want, it means that when we pray, he's praying. You learn, he's learning wisdom, he's discovering wisdom. All this is related to the mirror between creator and creation and the cycle of life and how the will comes forth. If you look in the words of our sages or in the words of our prophets, you'll find this very clearly expressed. It's called his Torah, meaning that it's his form that we have received and therefore his instructions that we are fulfilling. That even the angels have a teaching. That originally the Torah was in the heavens and then it came forth to earth, because the will that designed the heavens is itself the Torah. The Torah was the architect that drew life to be the form that it is. And so all the forces of the heavens that together create the forms on the earth, the creatures that inhabit the earth, all of them are according to the Torah, and the Torah was first only there, and then came Moshe and expressed it to the earth, expressed it to the human soul, so that it can comprehend it even while it's in the body. לפיכך יש במלוכים גם כן עונש גמול, התחיר כלך שונם והם המלוכים שבו להפך סדום. ומפני שגילו לסוידה של הקדוש ברוך הוא עומק ומשחיסם אנחנו נתחמים מחיצוסם. So you see, angels can have punishment because all goes according to the attributes, and the attributes go according to the Torah, according to the directions of creation, according to the essence that's being expressed. And so angels can help the essence and get closer to the source, and angels can turn against the essence, not because they want. They're doing their will. They're doing the will of the essence. But by doing the will of the essence, sometimes this is a will that brings them closer. Sometimes this is a will that brings them further. Just like within humans, that the nations will go against Klal Yisrael, will go against us when we are misbehaving, and this becomes the will. And so when they go against us, this is the will. And yet, the attribute of judgment is eventually going to take revenge of this offense, even though it was the will, because this is the nature of the justice, is that whatever comes through one, now that one is going to receive the result of that. So you can see that the Kaf Schus and the Kaf Choyv, the side of merit and the side of judgment, are also in the higher worlds. They're not just in the world of matter. They're not just in the world of humans. Everything that exists goes through these cycles that create its form and cause things to come into existence and cause things to maintain existence and cause things to go out of existence. Everything is based on the right, the left, and the center. The center is going to receive from the right or from the left based on guilt or merit. This is where the sages teach us, if a person is violating the will of the designer, now he's pushing the whole world into guilt, meaning he now created an interpretation, he now created an angel, that according to that angel, humans deserve less life. And now this is part of the collective. Now this became existence. This became part of reality. Also mitzvah achas, he did one thing accurately. He did an authentic deed. Ashraf, how fortunate is he that now he's moved himself and all of existence into the side of merit. It doesn't mean that the world was exactly even. It means that every action creates someone on the scale. And so this someone on the scale is pushing to that direction. Whether he will win or not, it's all relative. Every type of movement in the scale, up or down, has an impact in what's going to take place. And so every deed is somehow affecting the collective. It's affecting the situation. It might not be the defining factor, but it is part of the ingredients that result in what's going to come. לשון חוק מכריע בינתיים, פרש כל צבא השמיים עובדים עליו מימונה ולזכות מצד החסד, משמאל לחוב מצד הדין. And so all the personalities of the stars are judging us in the sense that of, did we cooperate with their design and intention? Did we do what's accurate? Or did we somehow violate? And so all these are judges that are pulling us towards the water or towards the fire. Some are teaching guilt and some are teaching merit. If there is one teaching merit out of 1,000, then he will receive grace. He says, save him from going down into the pits. We have found liberation for him. We have found a way to gain forgiveness, because there is 1 in 1,000 that claims that he is innocent. ולשון חוק פרש הבינה שמרוח עליהם היא מכריע בין האש ובין המים שנאמר המשל ופחד עמוי עושה שלום במרומיו. So from the bina, which is the mother of the attributes, comes forth the 3 columns, the chesed, gvur, tiferes, and the tiferes is going to be the one that's going to be machriya between the chesed and the gvur, the right and the left. And so this is called Oiseh Shalom B'mroimav, the one who makes peace between the attributes. The attributes are creating together. Michal to the right, the water. Gavriel to the left, the fire. They're working together in order to create. And so there's peace between them. The body, the heat and the water of the body are working hand in hand in order to create life. If the heat of the body or the water with the body are not getting along, then there can be no life. And so in the higher realms, the sides are getting along. So that's called Oiseh Shalom B'mroimav. He makes the peace in the higher realms. That even the opposites are not in conflict with each other. The opposite is true. The opposites are what create existence under space and time. If there were no opposites, it would all go back to be beyond space and time. In order to dress up in space and time, there needs to be dimensions. In order for there to be dimensions, there needs to be opposites. It says, Lashon Chak, the language is the one, but he called language with the name tongue. But he didn't say ruach. He didn't say there's fire and there's water and the air is in the middle, even though that's what it means, because the tongue is using air in order to give its decrees. It says, usually you would say the air is the one that divides between the fire and the water. Because the word lashon, the word tongue, is going to give us a hint so that we know where to find the air. Where we're going to find the air in the human being? In the tongue, not in the lungs. Not the lungs are the one who are going to decide the decree. They would be the element of air. But no, it's the tongue that forms the air. He's the one that's going to cause it. כי יש שלושן ים בעולם, ובשונה בנפש. So there's water you can find in the world, you can find it in time, and you can find it in nefesh. והנה הלושן מחרס, בין החך העליון והתחתון. The tongue is the one that distinguishes between the upper cheek and the lower cheek. בין הלב והמוח. The upper cheek, the teeth that are above the tongue, represent the movement of the brain, the mind. And the lower teeth represent the heart. This is why what's really moving when we speak is just the lower teeth. It might seem like both sides of the mouth are moving, but the upper teeth are staying where they are. The lower teeth are moving. The same thing. The brain is staying where it is. It's the emotions that are moving that are causing the speech. It's the heart that's moving. That's what results in speech. The emotions are driving the brain to come up with these words in order to say them. And so the lower cheek, the lower teeth, the lower lip is moving, and this is what's driving the speech. This is what's driving that there is speech coming out from the upper cheek, from the upper teeth. They're staying in place. Through prayer, through the right type of speech, the attribute of judgment will turn into the attribute of compassion. When we will say the wrong type of speech, then the attribute of kindness, the attribute of compassion will turn into judgment. This is when we violate the dignity of reality, when we lose respect for the greatness of what's happening. That type of speech removes compassion and brings judgment. So when someone speaks in a disrespectful way about the interaction between a bride and a groom, then even if he was meant to have 70 years of kindness, that speech can move him to the other column of guilt and remove all the kindness that he was meant to have. Bechol Zois, which represents the Yesod as it connects to the Malchus, this, when we violate the dignity of that area, then his anger comes out, and more suffering comes to the world, because we disrespect creation, because creation loses its dignity. And when creation doesn't have its dignity, there isn't what can give it the sustenance that it requires. And so this brings a wrath from above, so that the soul cannot find rest, the soul cannot find peace. He called it a law. Perish abina, kibris loshen perish yesod abina, v'nikra loshen chok. So language is called law, because law and language are the same thing. We say the law, let's say we're talking about the national law. We're talking about a government, a collective of humanity that is regulating the law. How are they regulating the law? Through language. But the law of language starts much earlier than the law of the nation. The law of language is first the law of the biology. Which sounds am I going to make, and who is going to appear? If I say dog, what will happen? So it depends. If that person speaks English, then a dog will appear, an aggressive creature. If that person speaks Hebrew, then a fish will appear, a gentle creature. And so which part of the soul is going to appear when I make a sound? That depends on the law. What is the law? The language is the law. The language is the law of the soul, of how it's going to appear, when it's going to appear, what is going to be revealed of the soul. That's all created by language. Because every type of law and every type of judgment comes from language. From the side of merit is life, and from the side of guilt is death. Therefore the The verse says, Moves v'chaim b'yad haloshen. Death and life are in the hands of the tongue. The tongue has hands? Of course it does. What are the hands? The palms. What are the palms? Kaf schus, the palm of merit, the right palm, and kaf choiva, the palm of guilt, the left palm. The tongue has palms, and with those palms, with those hands, she meddles with reality. And so the life and the death are dependent on the palms of the tongue. And through the hands, it stretches out those palms and moves some things around in the world of spirit. And then the body receives its sustenance, the soul receives its life, according to the angels that were created, according to how the scale is tilting. All types of laws, henshel kamas, of how many there is of each creature, shall call min v'min, hen chaka eches, the quality of each creature, hen chaka uno, where is it, when is it, rotzlema betnua begilgul, what movement creates it, hen chaka matzev, the situation, the state that it's in, hen chak apoil v'hispalis, the one who is doing and the one who gets done, the things that are moving, the things that are doing, and the things that get moved as a result. For example, now, my speaking and all those who are being impacted by my speaking. This is the choik apol v'hispalis. Kulam yotze al pi haloshen, they all come out through speech. There's the speech of the universe, which resides in the silence of the organs as they create life, and there's the speech of the humans, which is a metaphor for the speech of the universe. And this dresses up the spirit in a specific form. So all of them are pi haloshen. Al pi Hashem yachnu, according to the name, they will rest. Val pi Hashem yisou, according to the name, they will remain in their form, and according to the name, they will change their form. Remaining in their form is called resting, and changing their form is called traveling. And so the tongue, which represents the bina, which comes from the heart, it's the one that distinguishes between the higher realms and the lower realms. It can speak about concepts, it can speak about matter. It can travel in all of the worlds. And it's the one that's machia between the fire and the water. And it brings out everything that's in thought to become expressed and become visible. Sholosh ames, imas, three mothers, mem de memes, the sound of water, the vibration of water, is the vibration of the mem. So that humming represents the water. That humming is the vibration of the stomach, the vibration of the water within the body. Perish called momadaka. It's like it's a very thin hum. V'soid neman ruach mechased dovar. And so the force of life is covering the depth, so that when we see life, we don't understand what a tremendous force is being revealed over there. So mitzat teva chesed, this is from the nature of kindness. She sheketes v'kocha be'isod hamayim, that she's quiet, and her force is from the element of water. Imanik benachas lebriyosav, and it leads the creatures in peace and in calmness. And so above, on the soul level, it's that when there's kindness, there can be silence. When the soul is in a state of kindness, then it can be silent. Versus when it's in a state of judgment, then it cannot be silent. All hums, all types of humming are related to kindness. They're a gentle voice. V'shinshul shel eish mashmas kol ami v'tzoka v'shrika. Shh. This is the voice of fire. This is a voice of movement. This is not a quiet voice. And so the mind, when it's taken over by judgment, it's making noise. It can't calm down. And this is the storm. And so the spirit is the one that takes on this form. The spirit, which is the ruach, is going to be blown in the fire. So what are you going to see? You're going to see flames of wind, which are the thoughts that are being created by the fire, which is the judgment. And so when the attribute to the left is in charge, then the body is in a storm. The wind, the spirit, is blowing, and it has the flames of the fire that are driving its fast movements. And then the spirit will go over to the water, and then suddenly the spirit will come, and it'll be like a water that has like this gentle flow, and the thoughts are gentle and kind and giving life, and this is where the water has returned to the spirit. And so the air, which is the machriya, she is the one that's going to dictate if the fire is going to be in charge of the air or the water is going to be in charge of the air, and the air is the spirit. Aleph is chok machriya ben time perish Keser Eli Nikra Aleph. Chok Ikshem Shabina Machraz ben Schuz V'choy V'ken Keser Eli Machriya ben Dmo Meshrika. V'rayim Zelatzinoy Sayodis Mikeser Eli Nechesed Agvurle V'le'emtze L'achriya. And so from the original will already comes the middle column, which is the column of air that's going to decide between the left and the right. And so everything comes out according to the source. The source is going to dress up into these different forms, and they are going to result in the right or the left, which one is going to control the spirit, which is the air. And that's the reality that's going to come forth. That's the das that we experience. Our das is being pulled to the right and to the left, to the fire and to the water. And according to our das, that's the machriya. That's how reality is going to come forth. And from there will come interpretation to all the dimensions. That's it for today.